Out here in, I guess we'll call it street talk. There's maybe some misunderstandings about what JEDCO does. We see JEDCO's name pop up every once in a while on KJAS and some other publications, but some people think, man, this is an awesome thing for the community. Others think it's shadow government type stuff and all this type of deal. But explain to the listener out here exactly what JEDCO does and how they perform that work. NotOnThePayroll.com. You can check us out at Facebook, check us out at YouTube, and check us out at Rumble. If you have any question as to who we are or where we are, you can look for the gorilla with the red headphones. That's exactly right. That is the mascot. But today we have I'm actually excited to sit down with Executive Director Eddie Hopkins for JEDCO, Jasper Economic Development Corporation, here in Jasper. Mr. Hopkins, I appreciate you taking time with me.
Thank you for the interview.
Absolutely. So let's just get right down to it, man. Let's talk about, we were talking a little bit before about the difference between JEDCO and an infamous DETCOG. But what is it? I mean, you guys were all together? You're not together? What exactly happened? What's the deal there?
I think the acronyms themselves just get confusing sometimes, and it still happens. Deep East Texas Council of Governments was once housed in Jasper, and in that building out by Lowe's, Jasper Economic Development had its offices at one time.
Okay.
We were never connected politically or in any entity type way, but we simply rented space in that building or had an office space in that building because the space was available.
Gotcha. But other than that,
we were never connected in any way.
Okay.
JEDCO left that building, and because the space was needed by DETCOG, and then went into the Chamber of Commerce building over on Milam Street. And then from that, after I was hired, we acquired the old Lone Star Buffet that we're sitting in right now.
And it doesn't smell like barbecue.
No, and I miss those rolls too. But we converted it into our offices, and we invited the Chamber to join us.
Okay.
JEDCO actually owns this building, and the Chamber of Commerce is in this building with us because we think that's a great partnership. And so because of that, we named this building the Jasper Welcome Center. And we enjoy the Chamber being with us because we bounce off of each other, people that come to town that may be looking for something, and we utilize that information to try to help anybody that walks in those doors with any questions they may have about Jasper or the area.
Absolutely. So out here in, I guess we'll call it street talk, there's some misunderstandings about what JEDCO does. We see JEDCO's name pop up every once in a while on KJAS and some other publications, but some people think, man, this is an awesome thing for the community. Others think it's shadow government type stuff and all this type of deal. But explain to the listener out here exactly what JEDCO does and how they perform that work.
Sure. We are governed by the Texas Government Code as an economic development corporation. And in Texas, there are 3 different types of economic development corporations. There's a type A, which that is what JEDCO is. There's a type B, which is more community development. And then there's a municipal development district, which really allows the same revenue sources, but the money can be spent different ways. The voters of Jasper voted many years ago to form Jasper Economic Development Corporation, and the council at that time and the voters at that time decided they wanted it to be a type A. In a type A corporation, the revenue is derived from half a penny sales tax.
Okay.
So in Jasper, like most cities that are incorporated, the city has the ability to collect 2 pennies above the state sales tax. Out of the 2 pennies the city can collect, JEDCO gets a half a penny. So the city keeps a penny and a half, and JEDCO gets a half.
Okay.
And with those funds, we're limited on what we can spend it on. The majority of the law and regulation says it needs to be spent on industry, recruitment of manufacturers and those type jobs. However, there's a caveat in there that also gives us the ability to spend those resources on workforce development and education.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, Jay, since I've come on board, one of the first things that was really glaring to me when I took the position of executive director was the lack of workforce development that we saw in Jasper.
Sure.
I couldn't legitimately go out and recruit businesses or industry to come to Jasper if we didn't have the people that could work there and were trained and capable of working in those type industries. So my focus has not been on recruitment as much as it has been on education and workforce development. And we do spend a lot of time, a lot more time than we do money in that area. As a matter of fact, we've assisted with matching grant funds to Jasper ISD, mainly Jasper ISD, to help with securing grants from the Texas Workforce Commission. There's even one grant that we are just going to present a check Tuesday night at our board meeting. It's called a high demand job grant, and we're going to contribute $56,000, and Texas Workforce Commission is going to match that. And it's going to create 2 computer labs at Jasper High School.
Oh, nice.
That those students can be trained and be certified, and even receive college credit because of what they're going to learn and be able to go to work in the IT field. Hopefully, some of those will stay here and work for Provalus, which is one of our champions. Sure. I would say, since I came on board, but. We have really been focused on trying to get our folks educated. We have also scholarshiped numerous people to get their CDL license.
Okay.
Through Lamar State College, Port Arthur. They actually perform that training out at the Deep East Texas College and Career Academy, which is on the high school campus here in Jasper. We will scholarship anybody that has a need for CDL if they have a 75951 zip code.
Wow.
And we've scholarshiped numerous people, and that's $4,500 per student.
Wow.
You know, so that's a Class A CDL. If they're successful in graduating and get their license, then we pay half of it up front to the college, and then we pay the other half when they graduate.
Yeah.
And that's proved dividends. And hopefully there's some CDL drivers out there that now are employed that live in Jasper that are making a better living for their family because of getting those licenses.
Well, I can definitely tell you this, living over in Newton off of 190, there are plenty of CDL drivers. They've been hauling sand from Maryville
Those
forever.
sandbox trucks.
That's back and forth, man. And I'm like, it's like this, you know, in my head, I'll pull out, you know, because I was talking to the text dot down in Beaumont, and I was just talking about how much traffic comes in on that corner here the other day.
Yeah.
And, they said, you guys really have that much traffic? I said, man, I'm telling you right now, I could walk out to 190. I'm going to see 4 sandboxes before I even get out on the highway good. And this morning as I'm pulling out, I actually pulled out and I pulled in behind 2 sandbox trucks, and 2 of them was coming the other way. So,
you know, I look at things like that different than most people, though. When I look at that, I look at economic development, because those
Sure.
sandbox trucks are providing fracking sand for the oil field.
Yeah,
So
right.
those trucks are going north
That's
of here,
progress.
and somebody is going to benefit from that industry, and that truly is what, you know, building thriving communities is all about, is recognizing when there is development going on and appreciating it. Another thing that I really am passionate about is making sure that our people have jobs that will allow them to stay in Jasper.
yeah.
You know, our community, if you look at the city limit sign, it appears that it has shrunk some since the last census that was taken. I honestly believe those numbers were not as accurate as they should have been, because the census was taken during the pandemic.
Sure.
And a lot of folks didn't get online to participate in that, nor were they door-to-door knocking like most censuses are. So I really believe those numbers are skewed a little bit. But, Jasper is such a shopping hub. As I mentioned earlier, our revenue is generated from a half a penny sales tax. And it is evident with the city's sales tax collection that Jasper's a shopping hub. Our half a penny generates an average of about $100,000 a month.
Wow.
And it's good, but it also creates stewardship
issues.
We have to be very
true.
much good stewards over that money, and we are. We are very much so audited, and our books are very much reviewed. Our board reviews financial statements every month, and even though we're not a department of the city, we are a quasi-department of the city, and the same auditors that audit the city are the ones that audit our books as well. So I after 30 years in banking, I'm not opposed to audits or examiners. I lived in that world for 30 years. So I invite folks to know, and our financials are definitely public record. So, but there's so much that goes on other than the big projects, the Provaluses of the world. That happened 2.5 years ago, and I was so nervous when we finally landed. That conversation started with an email that I got from our city manager saying, I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know who these people are, but I got an inquiry that you may want to check out.
Okay.
So that I did. Immediately I reached out to the person that sent the email. And immediately got an email back saying, yes, we'd love to have a conversation. What I didn't know is that they were also talking to 50 other cities.
Oh, wow.
And that process took a year, but it narrowed it down from 50 to 20 to 10 and then to 2. It was between us and another city, and we were able to incentivize them in a way because we knew the employee impact it was going to have. And the city, first time ever that the city of Jasper and Jasper Economic Development Corporation came together, the city council and our board came together, and we formed an entity called Jasper United. Whew,
wow.
That was powerful.
Sure.
To know that we can get that many people on the same page for a common goal. And that's our motive, is for us to do things as a community. Don't be fractured. Don't be adversarial about every conversation. There can be unity. And we saw that happen. The city council and our board came together, and the city agreed to really burden the lion's share of the cost. And to build a building downtown and to do the incentives that we had proposed. The city took 70% of that, and JEDCO assumed 30%. But just the fact that we came together for a common goal, and now, Jay, I'm happy to report at month end there's 230 employees.
Wow.
Working in that building downtown. Wow. That's phenomenal.
That is crazy, man.
And I know some folks have even complained because of everybody on the sidewalk and all the parking that's not available anymore downtown. But it really, it has rocked the employee world because of where those people come from and drive to Jasper every day to work. We have people from Nederland, we have a lot of people from Newton, Pineland, Woodville, that drive to Newton every day to work, and that just really is what it's all about. I was nervous because I didn't think at first when I got to talking to them and knew the impact they wanted to have employee-wise, I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure we could provide the employees.
Right.
They're very unique in a company in the fact that they have what they call a boot camp, and they put their employees through this boot camp prior to them being employed.
Okay.
And they don't care if you've got a GED or a PhD.
Right.
If you've got the aptitude to learn, and we've got a lot of people that have that aptitude that are bashful, they kind of feel like they don't belong, or they just don't. I don't know, but we have gotten some people out of their shell. Yeah. Because they stepped up, they took the test, they realized that they have the aptitude. Provalus recognized the fact that they had the aptitude, and they put them to work. And man, that's what it's all about. We got so many kids, Jay, and this is a phrase we use a lot out at JEDCO and at the high school and stuff, that are graduating to the couch. We don't want that. Right. We want our people to be successful. We want them to feel good about themselves. We want the families to prosper because they're gainfully employed. And that's why I am so involved in the educational process in and around Jasper, because I just feel like, and it doesn't mean you have to have a college degree. It
Right.
doesn't mean you have to have an associate's degree, but it does mean that you need a certification. You need some credential that can give you a marketable skill that will create a revenue source for your family.
Sure.
And that's what it's really all about. That to me is economic development, more so than just what the big companies that we lure to Jasper. To me, economic development is workforce development, it's education, it's community development, it's self-esteem development. It is so much more to it. And I just wish people would realize that that's our mission at JEDCO, and it's not just a money pit.
Right.
We really are focused on making Jasper and the surrounding area a better place to live. You know, we've been referred to as the jewel of the forest, and that was tarnished 20-something years ago.
Sure.
But it's our goal to get that jewel back out and polish it up a little bit.
Right.
And truly make Jasper a place that people want to live and want to shop and want to do commerce in. So
Yeah, it's interesting to me how there is. I don't know if Jasper was like this before 20 years ago. It's actually a little bit longer than that, but
1998 to be honest.
1998. So, I mean, I don't know if Jasper was always like this, where seemed to be like an undertone of, like you were saying, fraction, division, these types of things. And I just wonder if obviously media, or not necessarily media, but social media specifically, hasn't really helped.
It hadn't helped, but I'll tell you, there's a picture of me in my high school annual in a cheerleader uniform. At a pep rally over in Newton, a bunch of us football players put on cheerleader uniforms, and we did the pep rally. But I will say this. I may not have a cheerleader suit on, but I am Jasper's cheerleader all over this state.
Gotcha.
Have an opportunity and the privilege to travel around and be in different venues. And I'm not bashful at all to say I'm from Jasper.
Gotcha.
There was a time when you said the word, though, people cringed.
Yeah.
And but hey, we've got to dispel that. We've got to own it. It happened. But we're a people that are better than that. And I think we're making some headway in that regard. My board is very open to the idea that we are bigger and better than that incident that happened. And I've got a great board. It's a big board, a 15-member board.
Wow.
But they're very supportive. They're very knowledgeable. They're very open. They're excited about what JEDCO does in and around the community. And I feel very comfortable with the support from this board and the city council. Even though we're two separate entities, we work very closely together because there's some things that the city has to be involved in that we do.
Right.
So we have a great relationship. And, it doesn't matter who's elected. I've got to work with whoever it is.
That's exactly right.
And we've got to find a way to have dialogue.
Right.
In the city business, I was on the school board for 18 years. We didn't have party affiliation, but we had to work together.
Sure.
We were in the school board. We were a team of 8, and that's kind of a corny acronym, but it's the school board, which is 7 people, and the superintendent. And if you're fractured there,
it's problematic.
Very little happens.
That's right.
And so
I noticed what you did there. You went ahead and threw out that there's a picture in the annual of you dressed up in a cheerleading outfit, just so if that ever comes out, you already headed it off at the pass.
I was very proud of those days. We were so blessed over Newton. We had a great high school, and I miss Newton High School. My dad taught there, but times are different.
Yeah, they are.
They're different, and we had a great relationship with the different cultures, the different ethnic makeup. We didn't have the issues that we're seeing in today's world.
Yeah.
I didn't mind a bit in the world putting on that cheerleader suit with some of my black brothers and getting out there and having a good time.
That's right.
And we were blessed to win state that year.
There you go. There you go.
But anyway, that's another thing I wish we could get beyond and get past is there's not one side of town that's more important than the other side of town.
That's right.
When we're looking at economic development and community development, we truly are looking at Jasper proper.
Yeah.
There are parts of our town that are more conducive to industry. And believe it or not, it's East Jasper.
Yeah.
East Jasper's thriving. We've got some projects going on over there that very few people even know about. I guess very few people know that there are pellets made here that are burned in barbecue pits all over this world that are made right here in Jasper, Texas. You know, there are very few people that know that high-grade glycerin is made through Terra Biochem right here in Jasper, Texas.
Wow.
You know, there's just so much that people think they know that they don't really know that is so powerful. And thanks to some previous city councils and previous city administrations to make some of that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll go unnamed,
Yeah,
but
right.
a lot of credit needs to go to those folks because they saw an opportunity to help Jasper, and they made some provisions and created some incentives that you know, those people are here now.
Absolutely.
We're enjoying the heck out of it.
Absolutely. So touching just a little bit on Newton specifically.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been rumblings over the past months of potential of Bonweir blowing up into a metropolis.
You know, USA Biofuels is a company that has developed a process making diesel and aviation fuel out of wood slash. They use.
Now, what is that?
It's any kind of wood product, basically pine refuse that can be used, and it's a chemical way of making diesel and aviation fuel. And they saw that we were in the wood box. The wood there is a term they use because of all the longleaf pine that we have in East Texas. It was just the perfect location for a refinery like this. The process actually, and this is something else a lot of people don't know, the first meeting that was ever had with USA Biofuels in Newton County happened in this room we're sitting in.
Really?
They needed a place to meet. Judge Weeks called and Nancy Wyndham called, and I said, for sure, by all means, you can meet here.
Yeah.
Because what's going to be good in that location is going to be just revolutionize Jasper and Kirbyville and Newton. It's just going to be phenomenal when and if it, and I'm going to say when it happens.
Right.
There's so much that goes into a process like that, and all the regulatory hoops that have to be jumped through, but as far as we know, that project is still moving forward. Actually, the Governor Abbott won the Governor's Cup again because of economic development and growth in Texas. And USA Biofuels is one of the projects that was used to come up with the numbers that was necessary to win that.
Wow.
It's a $1.7 billion project. And that is just unheard of.
Sure.
You know, down in Orange, Chevron Phillips is building a new refinery there, and that's an $8 billion project.
Right.
And so, for Newton County, for anybody in our region to get a project of that nature and that size is just revolutionary. And it is, I'm really praying and hopeful that it happens in my lifetime so I can see it change Newton back to the way I remember Newton.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of things leave Newton over the years. My parents moved there in 1953, and my dad taught and coached over there, and my mother was a nurse and an RN and worked at the hospital. And when I was born in 1957, but I can remember through my growing up days, Newton had 3 car dealerships, 2 banks, 2 sawmills, Kirby Mill down in Bonweir, where this location is going to be, a hospital that was that a lot of people were taken care of and born in Newton's hospital, and all that's gone.
Yeah.
And I can remember when the hospital left, it was almost like you cut a vacuum cleaner on. I'm very passionate toward Newton because I know that if Newton can thrive, there's a lot of people over there that need that.
That's right.
The economic situation in Newton has digressed over the years somewhat with just because of the job availability left.
Right.
But there's still good people there.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
absolutely.
people out in those woods that can work at USA Biofuels, and I think they'll find the employees they need that'll be loyal.
Right.
And will really just really rock that economy. And I didn't have any problems, and nor did my board, with housing that first meeting here, and getting that conversation going and seeing where it is today. I don't stick my chest out because I've not done anything, but it does make you feel good to know that that project's probably going to come to be, and it all started right here. So
yeah, it's crazy because it's almost like, who would have ever imagined that the property values in Baumware are going to be out the roof. I mean, granted, just because of growth, just because of increase.
That's caused a little trepidation, but if I was the county judge or the school superintendent and see what it's going to do to the tax collection because of the evaluation that's going to get changed into once it gets built and thriving, it's going to create some revenue sources that Newton County's never seen before.
Right.
And they need it.
It'd be kind of like folks winning the lotto, and kind of in a way.
Hey, but if Judge Cochran's watching this, and I know he may watch it, he needs to be a good steward of it.
That's
and
right.
I know that he will.
That's right.
I know the county. I know everybody in Newton.
Yeah.
But the county treasurer and those folks, the commissioners, they're possibly going to recognize some revenue that they've never seen before.
Sure.
And it's going to be up to them to make sure that it's spent wisely. And I know they will. Yeah. They deserve it. They have endured so much over there. They deserve a little breath of fresh air and
sure.
revenue that they've not seen before.
Not to cut you off, but I mean, if you think about it, I'm trying to think. They're talking about full-time employment of a couple of hundred people, potentially 300. I know during construction phase, probably 500
That's
or so.
correct.
And, it's been a while since something like that's happened on that south end for sure.
I don't remember how many employees that Kirby had. They were probably the largest employer at one time for Newton County. There's been a facility in Deweyville that's employed quite a few people. Of course, when I was growing up, you either worked for the highway department,
right.
You worked at the school, or you worked at the hospital,
right.
Or the county. They were probably the largest employers. And then when Kirby came on, it employed a lot of people. Newton Lumber Company employed a lot of people back in the day.
Yeah.
But those have gone away. So to think that we could get an industry over there that's going to bring some of these people, it's going to be grandchildren of people that I once knew.
That's right.
But for the fact that they can have employment and stay in their community and be good citizens and bring Newton back to what it once was is just, man, I hope I see it before the Lord calls me home.
There you go. So back on Jasper just for a minute. It's 2023. What are some of your immediate, maybe JEDCO's immediate kind of goals that you guys
we've got 2 projects right now that are on the drawing board. One of them is really close to our local media outlet, Mr. Lout.
Okay.
KJS was at my board meeting last month and announced one of our projects. And if that project happens, that's 110 employees. The other project that we're talking to and looking at, which is unnamed at this time, but that's going to be another 100 employees. The first one that was announced at our last board meeting, it's probably going to have, I'm going to say probably 100 construction workers prior to the 110 full-time that are going to work once that plant's open.
Wow.
The other project that we're working on, it's going to probably be 250 to 300 construction jobs and then 100 full-time.
Wow.
So, if those 2 projects come to be, and we're real close to making an announcement on the second one, I think, again, it's not about us. It's about the quality of people we have in Jasper that other companies and corporations want to be here.
Right.
It's just amazing how those in the areas, outlying areas, look at Jasper and see the quality of life that we enjoy. We're blessed with a wonderful reservoir right up the road, but just the quality of life that we have. We have low, and believe it or not, we have low taxes.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
Our school tax, even though it is what it is until the legislature changes that, it's lower than most around us.
Right.
Our city property tax is low compared to those around us. Our county taxes are comparable to those counties around us and lower than most. So really, and the fact that Texas doesn't have a state income tax is also wonderful.
Sure.
And one of the companies that's looking at us is coming. They have an opportunity to go to another state, but because we don't have a state income tax and our tax base is what it is, Jasper's risen to the top. So I would just encourage anyone that ever has any questions about what we do, just to simply come see me. My door is open. If I'm not out and about trying to do something in the community, I'm here. And I want to talk to folks that have any questions about what JEDCO does, what we are. There's even some legislators that look at economic development as corporate welfare.
Okay.
They think all we do is give money out to those people that really don't need it.
Gotcha.
And we incentivize those companies that were probably going to come here anyway, but that's not the case. We have a budget we work by, and we're very strategic about where we spend our money. Our budget not only is approved by my board, but our budget's approved by the city council too.
Okay.
So anytime we formulate a budget, it goes through two different processes of approval before it's implemented. We have an exciting program going downtown, Jay, that a lot of people may not be aware of, but I think they'll see the benefits of it shortly. We have a facade improvement program where we will grant a business in Jasper. We expanded the boundaries. It was just a portion of downtown and several blocks around it, but now we've expanded it within the city limits. If they pay or collect a city sales tax, we're helping those. But what that does is it provides up to $10,000 to each business, and we'll match whatever they do up to $10,000. So if they want to spend $20,000 on their business, we'll match up to 10 of that, half of it,
okay,
to improve the facade, what it looks like outside.
Right.
And we've had over $100,000 already spent on businesses downtown where they've done that. So we're trying to revitalize downtown.
Sure.
Provalus did that in some form or fashion, but we've got a lot of businesses that have been there a long time that deserve some love too.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do that through this grant program. And a lot have taken advantage. Like I said, we've already expended over $100,000.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting. I can remember again going back to Newton High School. I can remember running around over here when I was in high school and how vibrant both of our downtowns were.
Yeah.
Downtown Jasper, there was a business in every building. There was a theater. There were just so much that was going on downtown. And it's gone away.
Yeah.
And Newton's the same way. I can honestly remember, Jay, walking from the elementary school to the famed theater downtown to watch the 10 Commandments.
There you go.
Newton even had a theater. But downtown seemed to have been hurt a little bit by retail because most of the retail's gone out on the major thoroughfares.
Right.
But we're trying to change that. We've got a beautiful park in Jasper.
Yeah.
And that park has contributed to a lot of traffic downtown. And there's very few cities our size that can really boast on what our parks look like. Mm-hmm. We've got a beautiful creek that runs through the middle of it. Now, some people that live along it or have businesses along it when it floods, they've had a little fear. But for the most part, we've got a beautiful area, and to me, that's economic development. Having people come to Jasper and enjoy our parks and enjoy our downtown, enjoy all our businesses, but to me, that's economic development. It's not just about what I collect through sales tax. It's about how our community feels about our community.
That's right.
And
it almost seems like, and granted, knock on wood, but it almost seems like there's a good potential over the next probably decade.
Man, I wish I was 30 years younger, Jay.
Really?
I see so much opportunity that seems to be coming our way that I may not see come to fruition. But I see a very bright future for us. I recently lost my right arm. Paul Smith left and retired and moved to Austin to be closer to his kids. But I had brought in a young man that I think is going to be able to take my position someday whenever the Lord calls me home, and will take that and run with it. He is seeing the vision that we've got. He's my administrative assistant. He's involved in every decision that I make. I want him to be involved because he is the next generation. And I wish more of our businesses would do that. I wish our school had more of our own, and a lot of them do, but I want us to grow our own. I want us to find those young people out there that have the passion and vision that I have and that we have, so that they can grab the torch and run with it. Because we've got a lot that's going to happen in the next. Something else that most of our public don't know, and I know I'm rambling, but this is very important. We have a project called Interstate 14 that started 20 years ago, and it was called Forts to Ports. It was going to connect Fort Polk with Fort Hood with an interstate, and they wanted to use the 190 corridor to do that. Which you and I both know that when you leave Leesville, you're going to be on Highway 63. So it was going to follow the path, Highway 63 to Jasper, and then it was going to pick up the 190 corridor all the way to Belton and Killeen. Well, that project has really been ramped up, and some folks have gotten on board in the Midland, Odessa area. There's a company called the Motran Transport. It's Motran, which is the Midland, Odessa Transportation Authority. And they have extended I-14 from Killeen all the way out to Midland. Wow. And now it's also extended not only from Fort Polk and Leesville to Savannah, Georgia. TxDOT just put out, I was in a meeting with the Motran 2 weeks ago, and they show the route that I-14 will follow. And it is the I-14, it is the 190 corridor, which means someday, we hope there'll be an interstate that'll come in or around Jasper. And another thing that's good for Jasper and Jasper economic development is that US 96, which is just outside our building, Jay, and US 69, which is the one that goes, the highway that goes through Woodville, have been designated as corridors to the Port of Port Arthur, the Port of Beaumont, and the Port of Orange. Okay. The only two corridors on I-14.
Wow.
Yeah. So because we're designated as a corridor, any highway that's going to be built in the future will have to be built to interstate standards.
Interesting.
And the reason that was done that way, and the reason it was called Forts to Ports, and you probably know this, but the Port of Beaumont is one of the largest exporters of military equipment in the world.
Yeah.
The Port of Beaumont is almost entirely consumed with, there's actually a regiment at the Port of Beaumont that has a lieutenant colonel as its commander, and that's where a lot of the military vehicles go in and out of for the United States and into the other parts of the world, and a lot of that comes from Fort Polk.
Wow! So
we're blessed now. Truly, you're a lot younger than me, but I know I won't see it, and you may not see it, but I-14 is real, and if you remember what happened during Hurricane Harvey. When Interstate 10 was shut down. You living in Newton, you know that those people came up Highway 87, hit 190, and 190 became their route east and west.
That's right.
And so Interstate 10 was closed. Vidor was an island. You know, they couldn't get through it. So having an interstate that runs parallel with Interstate 10 is going to revolutionize traffic flow and open up another artery to get transportation needs met from Midland, Odessa all the way. And what happens in Midland, Odessa, it intersects with Interstate 10. Mm-hmm. In Savannah, Georgia, I forget the interstate, but it intersects with another interstate there. So it's just going to go from one end of the United States to the other. And it's just going to be amazing. And I really wish the Lord would allow me another 50 years to see it happen. Legislation has been passed. The Senate has approved a bill. And believe it or not, we saw a bipartisan bill passed by Senator Cruz and Senator Warnock to make this real. Yeah. And that just gunned my motor to see those two that are such opposite ends of the spectrum come together. That is going to have a positive impact on everybody. Yeah. So that kind of gives me faith in our government that it can happen.
It can happen. It can happen. Yeah, we won't be putting any bets on it this week.
No, for sure. But I would encourage you, Jay, if you would, to get on. I'll forward you the slide and the PowerPoint presentation that identifies I-14, the most recent maps that have been put out there, because it really is amazing what could happen to us in the next 20, 30, 40 years.
It's pretty wild, man. It almost feels like for as heavy as the season was just prior to now with COVID and everything, it almost seems like we're kind of catching a little bit of a second wind almost, and it looks like there's a lot of really cool things that's going to be happening in the region, man.
You know, our region is really doing well. The Texas Forest Country Partnership that I mentioned earlier, that Nancy Wyndham and I actually went to Buna today, and we're in a meeting down there. It covers the 12 counties that are in the JEDCO region. Now, you know, Jasper divested themselves of JEDCO and joined the Southeast Texas Regional Planning Commission, which is Orange, Jefferson, and Hardin County, and now includes Jasper. But in the Forest Country Partnership, we're still a part of those 12 counties that make up JEDCO. But to see everything that's going on in those 12 counties is just amazing.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and Nancy will attest to this if she ever has an opportunity to be on your show, we were kind of left out. The Deep East Texas region was not getting recognized like the Tyler, Texas, and even the Lufkin Angelina County or the Beaumont, Port Arthur area. We were not a region recognized by a certain entity that has a lot of impact on development and growth. And I said, that's not acceptable.
Wow.
It's just not acceptable. So she and I led the charge. We went to the governor's office and the Texas Economic Development Council, and we got that changed. We are now a recognized region because we deserve to be.
Sure.
We've got a lot to offer in this region. And for us not to be on the list of folks that are contacted when there's a possible entity that needs to come to our region, that was just not acceptable, and we didn't.
No.
I share this a lot, and I shared it yesterday in a meeting I was at the school. When I was on the school board, Jay, I came home from those Texas Association of School Board conferences that we were required to go to every year very discouraged, because I saw the bigger districts in Texas offering their students things and programs and opportunities that we couldn't afford to offer. And I felt like it was discrimination.
Yeah.
I didn't say it in that setting. I've said it in another setting just recently about broadband. But I felt like that our kids were penalized because of their zip code. And that's not acceptable.
Sure.
Our kids live where their parents live.
Right.
And we need to provide the same education, or at least as good as education they can get there as they can get in Allen or Frisco or Austin or San Antonio.
Yeah.
Our kids should not be penalized because of where their parents choose to live, educational wise.
Right.
Now, what they do after they get out of school is their choice.
on them.
But while they're in school, we need to do everything we can to make sure they have the opportunities that these kids in the bigger cities have. I mean, the fine arts that our kids don't have access to. I don't understand it. Some of the extracurricular activities that our kids don't have access to. Some of the academic opportunities that our kids don't have that some of the other schools do. Now, we've got a great opportunity. I mean, our superintendent and our school boards in our area are doing a phenomenal job with the resources they've got.
Right.
But can we be better? Sure we can. When you pay your property taxes and you don't have a kid in school, I know it hurts.
Right.
But we're trying to provide with those resources the future.
Yeah.
And those kids deserve an opportunity to be educated like the kids in the big city are. And that's another goal of mine, as I shared earlier. I'm so passionate about education and making sure our kids have the resources they need so that when they graduate, they can be a productive citizen. And I want them to stay here.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to provide them employment, and because we need them here.
Gotcha.
We don't need them going to college somewhere out of town and not coming back.
Right.
I want them to stay here, and
That happens a lot, man.
It does.
It happens a lot. It's almost like these little towns get holed out over a generation or so.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, everybody's address is DFW or San Antonio or Houston.
Hey, it puts a lot of pressure on people that have the position I have.
Yeah.
Because I feel somewhat responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm trying to focus our resources to alleviate. Will we ever alleviate that? No. There are some young people that absolutely will not be able to do what they desire to do and live in Jasper.
Right.
But every opportunity we can to provide that is my goal. So.
Absolutely. So one last question. So with what JEDCO does and provides, is that mainly for businesses coming in? I guess my question would be, if there's already a business here, and say they're needing help on some front, is that a conversation you guys would have?
I want to have that conversation. I may not can provide the financial resources they have, but
Okay.
I can be a conduit to get them that.
Okay.
We are restricted because we're a Type A corporation as to what I can spend it on. And there are some folks that have long businesses, have been in Jasper forever, that need help.
Okay.
And I'm restricted on how I can spend that. There are certain infrastructure needs I can help with as a Type A, but for the most part, it does limit what I can spend those resources on. But I can be a conduit to help those people get resources.
Gotcha.
And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to be upfront with people and not promise anything that we can't deliver. But I guarantee you, we can find somebody that can help them. We've got 2 financial entities that have, because of the Temple Foundation, saw a need that there are in the rural parts of the state and the 24 counties that the Temple Foundation is responsible for. They brought in 2 financial institutions that focus on underserved, economically disadvantaged folks that can't just walk in the bank and be approved with a loan or for a loan. These 2 entities can do that.
Okay.
And we can be a resource to help them get in contact with those people. They will come to this office and visit with those people if there's a need. And we have seen some loans that these financial institutions have made to these people. I was a banker for 30 years. There's a lot of people that absolutely do not qualify based on the lending policies that a lot of banks have.
Right.
But they still need help.
Yeah.
You know, and they can be productive in what they do. Some of them need an education on how to keep books. We can help them with that. Some people know how to fill out a business plan. We have a small business development center from Lamar University that has an office in our building. They will come here and help people do that and create those business plans. So if there's anybody that sees this show that has endured this 30 minutes and now that we're at the end of it, I encourage them to come by.
Yeah.
I may not can help them, but I can promise them I'll find them someone that can.
There you go.
I'm not going to write a check that I can't cover.
Right.
But I am going to be a resource, and that's 80% of my job is being a conduit to those people that I may not can help, but that I know somebody can, and that's what I want to do.
Mr. Hopkins, I appreciate you taking time with me, man.
Thank you. I was a little nervous about this, but I feel good that the conversation's gone the way that it has, and truly, positive vibes that come through media and social media really do impact us. It's
Absolutely.
amazing how many people that I talk to that look at our social media outlet and our local media outlet and have conversation. And I appreciate that. But as much positive spin as we can put on it and honest positive spin is what my goal is. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely,
and
man.
my fears have been
Put to rest.
Put to rest.
There we go. There we
Thank
go.
you, Jay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Not on the Payroll right here at notonthepayroll.com. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and on Rumble. We appreciate you for listening.